Disney's Moana took the world by storm in 2016. We loved how Moana followed her heart and embarked on an unforgettable oceanic journey. With Maui's help, Moana retrieved Te Fiti's stolen heart and brought peace and order back to the world she lives in. It's hard to believe that the movie could have ended in a very different way. Watch until the end to find out which alternate ending almost got the green light.
And I'm going to love you in my belly.
Moana's brothers. When you think about it, it's very uncommon for Disney princesses to have any siblings of their own. Sure, they might be surrounded by woodland creatures or house pests, but this doesn't exactly qualify as family. With this in mind, we were surprised to find out that Disney originally had a very different storyline in place for the Polynesian princess. Believe it or not, but one of Disney's first Moana drafts included 7 brothers. Yes, that's right. Moana wouldn't have been the chief's only child, so by default, she probably wouldn't have been chosen to lead her people at the end of the movie either. In this version of the story, Chief Tui wasn't afraid of the ocean and allowed his 7 sons to sail the stormy seas. Sadly, the ocean was no place for a young girl, so Chief Tui forbade Moana from sailing alongside her brothers, even though she was a better sailor than all of them combined. Although this storyline could have been interesting, it would have taken away a lot of Moana's screen time. On top of that, it would make Chief Tui come off as a sexist, which isn't exactly ideal for this day and age. In the end, Disney chose to forgo storylines that were based on gender rights and equality, and chose to side with an independent woman's journey instead. Bonding time. When Maui first meets Moana, he sees her as his ticket off the island and not as his salvation, so he soon traps her under a huge boulder and leaves her for the birds. It takes a long time for these two characters to warm up to each other. In fact, we only see a connection form between the two of them during the second half of the film. Well, apparently, Disney wants one of these two characters to bond much earlier than they did. In fact, Moana and Maui were supposed to become friendly shortly after sailing off together. The two would have bonded during the song Warrior Face, in which Maui taught Moana how to defend herself and sail her boat at the same time. However, this musical number was eventually cut from the storyline. During an interview with Cinema Blend, co-director John Musker revealed why Warrior Face didn't make the final cut. According to him, the song felt like it sort of duplicated some of the other songs, and they wanted a different bonding moment, and the bonding almost came too early. The director added that the song had to be deleted to prevent Moana and the Demigod from bonding before the underworld scene could take place. All in all, we can't help but agree with Musker, because, well, Maui's disdain for Moana and vice versa was downright hilarious.
Kakamora.
Kako what?
Murdering little pirates.
A very sassy Hei Hei. Creating a character from scratch isn't an easy thing to do, which is why animators tend to draw inspiration from nature. Hei Hei, the rooster, was quickly adopted into the storyline. However, his character development just wasn't resonating with Moana's lightheartedness. Hei Hei was originally supposed to be a sassy bird with a very different face. In fact, the movie's writer, Jared Bush, revealed that Hei Hei started out as a jerk with too much attitude. This pesky rooster was even made to steal food from Pua, making him off as a total bully. Bush revealed that he was having a hard time connecting with the rooster, so it was soon agreed upon to change Hei Hei's behavior altogether. To make him more likable, Bush gave him a lower IQ and a string of dopey facial expressions. Despite changing the character's core foundations, Bush chose to keep his original sassy name. Animators were able to make the rooster more lovable by placing him in ridiculous scenarios. It's hard to imagine what Moana's voyage would have been like without the dim-witted pet, so we're super happy that Bush chose to put a different spin on Hei Hei's personality. Although it's hard to believe, some characters were created and cut out of the film altogether. Keep watching to find out which Moana personality didn't make it to the finish line. Pua almost joined Moana's journey. Moana fans were devastated when they saw the princess leave Pua on the shoreline and sail away. Many people felt as though Moana should have brought her porky friend on board. After all, Pua is super adorable, and we would have liked for him to receive more screen time. Funny enough, in the earlier drafts, he joined Moana on her quest. However, it was later determined that he would stay behind. So why did Disney ditch the pig and opt for the rooster? Well, because Moana was supposed to feel out of her element, and Pua helped her feel at home. Hei Hei, on the other hand, caused more problems than he helped solve, making him the ideal companion. During an interview with EW, Musker revealed that he still had mixed feelings about leaving Pua behind. The co-director further explained the reason why he was left out on Motunui. And this is what he had to say. The pig was supposed to go with her, but we sort of got talked out of it. They liked Moana being more isolated, stuck with this idiot rooster, and not having the comfort of having the pig with her. There were cute scenes that we don't have, so there you have it, guys. The movie would be completely different if the pig had been allowed to join on Moana's epic journey.
Thing doesn't give you power to create life. It's a homing beacon of death.
Mighty Maui. Directors John Musker and Ron Clements worked together to create the storyline for the beloved Disney movie Moana. Oddly enough, their original draft was nothing like the movie we know and love. When John and Ron first pitched their idea to executive producer John Lasseter, he was intrigued but not completely sold. Originally, John and Ron wanted to create a movie called Mighty Maui, and Maui was set to play the lead character. As a matter of fact, Moana wasn't even a concept yet. The directors were intrigued by ancient Maui myths and wanted to mash up some of the Demigod's best stories into one great film. However, Lasseter chose to send the directors to a string of Pacific islands so they could get a real grasp of the culture. It didn't take long for John and Ron to fall in love with the islands and the way of the people. They soon realized that navigation played a huge role in this part of the world's history. On top of that, they quickly picked up on how the locals saw the ocean as a living and breathing being. So by the end of their trip, the directors had a very different storyline in mind. And this is how Chief Moana's story came to life. Baby Moana. When Moana was just a baby, the ocean came to pay her a visit. The opening scene showed viewers just how connected Moana was to the ocean, despite not being allowed to venture into its depths. From the looks of it, Moana was chosen by the ocean a long time ago. Heck, it even brought her to Te Fiti's heart for safekeeping. Although the sea has a scary reputation, this scene showed us just how gentle and caring it could be. The movie's directors wanted to give the ocean a golden personality, and this on-screen moment seemed to do it justice. So it's hard to believe that Disney almost scrapped this segment while in search of something better. Animators fell in love with Moana's first encounter with the sea, so they were totally bummed out when the gorgeously animated sequence was put on the back burner. Luckily for us, the storyline later shifted, which allowed for it to slip back in. If this scene hadn't made the cut, fans would have seen Moana become chummy with the ocean during the first expedition. However, we think that their initial encounter is beyond perfect.
The ocean chose you for a reason.
If you start singing, I'm gonna throw up.
Bald Maui. Ron Clements and John Musker knew early on that they wanted Dwayne Johnson to voice the character Maui, so they felt compelled to model Maui after his voice actor. Choosing to make Maui bald was a very practical decision since a lot of hard work and money goes into animated long and bouncy hair. However, when the directors pitched their idea to their advisors, they were hit with a reality check. According to the advisors, Maui isn't bald. He has this long, rich hair that's part of his spiritual energy. So John and Ron told animators to give Maui a mane of silky hair, and they totally flipped out. You see, there are two things animators have trouble perfecting: water and hair. And since Moana is no stranger to oceanic landscapes and healthy and bouncy hair, animators had their work cut out for them. Although mastering Moana and Maui's locks was a challenge, it helped make the movie look ultra realistic. In fact, it's hard to picture Maui without a single hair on his head. After all, we're so used to his effortless top knot and luscious curls. The eight-eyed bat. You may or may not have noticed that the Moana movie has a few eight-eyed bats in it. This strange animal once had a huge role in this film. However, the eight-eyed bat was eventually cut from the movie's production. Still, it managed to make a few small appearances, which makes sense considering the character had already been designed. We clearly see Maui roll the bat into a ball and send it flying during his song, "You're Welcome." And the bat reappears for a split second when Maui and Moana first venture into the monster realm. So what's the big deal about this bat? And why does he keep popping up throughout the film? Well, the eight-eyed bat was supposed to be a gigantic monster who tried to stop our heroes from entering Lalotai. In fact, an entire scene was created with the bat as the main antagonist. In this scene, Maui and Moana were shown blowing into coconuts to distract the bat with hopes of getting past him. The eight-eyed bat was part of their earliest drafts, so when things began to change, his scene was deleted. Grandma Tala almost didn't make the cut. Although it may be hard to believe, Grandma Tala was one of the last characters to be added to the Moana storyline. It took writers a few rewrites before they realized that a wise and fearless personality could help the story unfold. After all, it was Grandma Tala who helped Moana reconnect with her ancestral roots. On top of that, Grandma Tala also encouraged Moana to return Te Fiti's heart to its rightful owner despite Chief Tui's strict orders. Without Grandma Tala, Moana's story would definitely be a miss. Without her grandmother's divine intervention, the Polynesian princess would never have had the courage to keep on going. During their trip to the Pacific Islands, director John and Ron met a woman named Tinano Murphy. This woman was used as inspiration for Grandma Tala's character. So basically, there's a real-life grandma out there, and she's super spectacular.
Is there something you want to hear?
The alternate ending. Moana teaches us a very important lesson at the end of the film. It teaches us that people can heal and restore their true beauty even after losing a part of their heart. When Maui stole Te Fiti's heart, he turned her into Te Ka, a villainous monster whose grief would eventually swallow the world. Finding the perfect ending for this film proved to be a real challenge, which is why many endings were created and rejected. In fact, Moana was originally going to end with Maui returning Te Fiti's heart. However, producers felt that this made Maui the star of the third act, and they wanted their girl Moana to be the hero. For the longest time, Moana was convinced that her mission was to bring Maui to Te Fiti, but during the final battle, she realized that her mission had been to return the heart herself all along. A handful of alternate endings nearly made it to the finish line, but in the end, directors fell in love with the one that's currently being used. In earlier versions, Motunui was made to sink to the bottom of the ocean only to be pulled back up by Maui's hook. Luckily, the island was able to remain in peace during Moana's absence. Before you go, let us know which behind-the-scenes secret was your favorite in the comments below. Give this video a big thumbs up if you think Pua is the cutest. For more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe to The Things. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.